Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello, welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. I'm Mike.
I'm PJ.
And today we're doing a retro review of Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and then True Detective Season 1. And folks at home, you're probably saying, well, how are all these things connected? We're going to connect them at the end, but we think we could all agree that all these shows, and I know True Detective is an anthology series, and really focusing on the first season, which everyone always talks about, and really here to kind of celebrate these shows. And I know PJ and I have talked about Batman and Superman countless times and just how good that animated series is, but today we'll dive a little bit deeper about what makes it special. And I'm really going to focus on, because I just watched True Detective Season 1 after years and years, and it's been out for over 12 years now. It came out 2014. I was
going to say, it has to be over a decade old.
Yeah, so it's and it's still celebrated, highly regarded. And I finally got a chance to see it, and I'm really going to try to tie into PJ, where I really reminded me of Batman and Superman. And I'll get into that. PJ, let's just talk, because I think you just rewatched every episode of Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series.
Yep.
So
I actually have rewatched. So here's the backstory for anyone who doesn't know. I have injured my back, and I've been not able to lay down and sleep at night. So I've been watching a lot of TV, and I wanted to put on something that I've seen before, so that if I do fall asleep, you don't care that you fall asleep, like that kind of thing, right? Since I haven't been able to actually lay flat in the bed and I'm on the couch, I said, let me put on something that comforts me, a comfort television show. And I chose the DC animated universe. So I've been watching Batman, then I watched Superman, then I watched the Justice League. I'm currently actually up to Justice League Unlimited. I've been watching, when I tell you, 8 to 12 episodes of animated series a night. So I've been powering through all this stuff. And that universe, that animated universe, is for me the ultimate comfort watch, because I love all of them. Specifically, as much as I love all of them, Batman and Superman, the animated series, those two for me, I think, are maybe the best two animated series of all time.
Without a doubt. I can't think of another. They're exquisite. They've revolutionized just cartoon series.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about the writing, the voice
animation.
acting. It's just it's really
perfect.
It's a masterpiece. And you wouldn't have other shows, and I'm sure the other highly regarded, cartoon series like this. Was that Invincible Man? What's that one? Oh, it's Invincible.
Invincible.
Oh, right.
The new one on Amazon based on the comic. Invincible.
Right.
You wouldn't have that.
Yeah. I mean, its impact, especially Batman the Animated Series, has has.
I think you could take it a
set
step
the
further
bar.
too, and just say, even without these cartoons, are the first time of a real shared universe or cinematic style universe where you had multiple properties kind of crossing over, because it started with Batman the Animated Series, which then spun off into Superman the Animated Series, but then those crossed over, and then you got new characters introduced on both of those shows that eventually led to the Justice League. I mean, it really showed a path forward, how everyone knows these characters exist in the same world. You can cross them over. When you think about the Arrowverse, the TV shows where they did Flash and Arrow, and then they did Supergirl, all of that stuff really can be tied back to how the animated series was all put together. The impact of those shows are unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we talk about the writing and the animation, and we've probably spoken about this episode before, but Heart of Ice, the Mr. Freeze episode, I think that won an Emmy.
Yep, it won an Emmy. Yep.
I think that's one of the best written television shows ever.
Yes. There's actually another episode that I believe won an Emmy. One of my favorite. I think it's one that's kind of like a forgotten gem now. It's called Bullet for Bullock. It's when Bullock, he's kind of the he's one of the other police officers on the on the task force. He doesn't really wear the traditional cop out. He's kind of I guess more the detective kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he's kind of
a little schlubby.
Yeah, he's kind of grimy. You're not really sure if he's really a crooked cop or not. But anyway, he teams up with Batman to find out who's trying to kill him. I mean, what a fantastic episode. It's
really
only a half hour long, but it's cinematic. And that whole episode, you got to watch it. It is so good. And it's just, that whole episode is better than movies of
it really is.
that have come out with Batman or Superman, any of that. I mean, so good. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, PJ, it's just one of those things where, I don't say lightning in a bottle, but it's kind of like bands. When bands have their
Mhm.
creative peak, and
Yep.
everyone is just cooking. I mean, they can't write a bad song. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
unbelievable run, and it's just that whole Batman animated series is in. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, even
It really
small
truly is
episode.
incredible.
Like we talk about the famous one, Heart of Ice, and then Harley Quinn was born out of this show.
Right.
I mean, you think of all the Joker's Millions. You and I always talk about that episode. That's one of the funniest episodes. I
That's
always talk
great.
about that one
Yeah.
all the time. But these other episodes, they don't really get enough love because they're they're overshadowed by other greatness. But these other
The Gray
episodes
Ghost
are
episode is
yeah,
great with Adam West as doing the voice of the
that
Gray
that was
Ghost, which
cool.
is like and it's very meta. It's like a comic book movie inside of a comic book show, and he's
Yep.
like that's something that Bruce idolized as a kid watching the Gray
Mhm.
Ghost. It really the animation is so smooth. But you mentioned the voice acting, and I mean
Mhm.
when we talk about comic books a lot on the show because I love comic books and
Mhm.
we all have an appreciation for that. When you read a comic book, in your head you hear a voice, right, of what the characters sound
Mhm.
like. I don't know a single person on this planet who, when they read Batman, doesn't hear Kevin Conroy's voice.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, look, there have been a million Batmen, and people have their favorites, whether it's Christian Bale. I know you're a big fan of the Nolan
Oh
movies,
yeah.
or
Mhm.
Michael Keaton, or whoever. But you read a Batman comic book, you don't hear Christian Bale, you hear Kevin
Oh,
Conroy. That
yep.
dude is a legend, and I mean the way he changes his voice from
That changed.
Bruce Wayne to Batman.
That had an impact on Batman
And
too. Like,
oh my god,
I mean,
it's so perfect the way he does it. And it's funny because we all make fun of the Christian Bale Batman voice
mhm.
because he gave him that different voice. And you just sit there and you're like, but why does he have to give that grumbly voice? Because Kevin Conroy was able to do it in a way where he just changes, I guess, the pitch, right? I guess that's
Yeah.
really all he really does. But so you can tell it's the same voice, but it's not a masterclass in acting.
Yeah, and I think obviously we know what Mark Hamill. We know these are iconic, but I think people forget how the whole cast was cooking on.
Oh my god,
The
so
guy who
great.
I don't have all their names, but the guy who did Two-Face, awesome voice. Gargly,
Unbelievable.
Commissioner Gordon. I mean, even if you were blind, he sounds very stately and in
Yeah.
charge, clear.
Yep.
Alfred's voice, countless characters. I mean, even Croc. These simple characters.
Yeah.
The guy, you'll know, the ventriloquist guy.
Yes.
He has he's like
He's got Scarface, the little puppet.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But even his voice is like kind of like meek and dorky. Then you have the puppet itself is very like powerful. I mean, but like I said,
The voice of
unbelievable.
Mr. Freeze is great. Bane's
Yeah,
voice. Bane is a character that often gets overlooked in that show because they don't really do the whole Nightfall thing where he breaks the back.
yeah,
But the voice of Bane with he has the accent and all that, that's really very
yes,
sinister the way he speaks. But you know who has, I think, one of the most underrated performances in that show because he's not in very many episodes is the Riddler.
yes.
And the Riddler is his voice actor is he's Lionel Luthor from Smallville. What the hell is that? I can't think. John Glover.
Yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
who's also in Batman and Robin. He plays the one who creates Poison Ivy. He's Dr. Woodrow. He's in that. He has comic book credits to his name and other things. His performance as the Riddler. The Riddler is my favorite Batman villain. But he does. I don't know when he's on screen, the Riddler, and he's doing that voice. A lot of the time, the Riddler almost becomes like a second fiddle Joker in a lot of interpretations. You know what I mean? Like he's always also goofing and laughing and all the other stuff. But they didn't do that in Batman the Animated Series. They make him
Yeah,
darker and more. I don't want to use the word sinister, but there's something in his voice where he's. It's just perfect for what the
they
Riddler's
don't
supposed to
make him
sound
like just nuts.
He's not a joke. He's not
Yeah.
nuts. Exactly. He is legitimately brilliant, and he uses that, and that so good. And another person that I want to talk about, and that is Robin. Robin's Reckoning. Oh my God, the Robin's Reckoning was that a 2-parter?
Yep.
Where he has to go after Tony Zuko and all that other stuff, and Lauren Lester does the voice of Robin. And I love the Robin episodes so much of Batman the Animated Series. When I was a kid and I would watch it, he wasn't in every episode, Robin. But
Yeah.
when you got a Robin episode and he was going to be in it, to me, it elevated the series. I love how he portrayed Robin's voice.
Yeah. I think what the show did with Robin is that they made him cool. Look, let's be
Yes.
real. Robin was always kind of like a little bit of like a dork, man. Like,
Yeah.
even the one with Adam West, like that show is a lot of fun. Robin's always been like a goof. Like, you think of Batman Forever or Batman and Robin, those movies, he's kind of like lame, honestly. This show made him legit. It made him cool. It made him like, he didn't make him like a punk where like Batman always had to bail him out. Sometimes he held back.
He was the
like
one bailing out Batman. Exactly.
Yeah, he was like kind of.
He was saving Batman's ass during this show, which is something that you're right. You didn't see a lot of that. I mean, in the comic book, sure, but in mainstream media, you didn't see it. And it was so great that they did that with Robin, because Robin is probably the third like oldest character in comic books. Superman was 1938, and then Batman was 1941, I want to say, or something like that, or 39 or 41, somewhere around there. And then Robin came shortly after. He really is like, yeah, he's the first sidekick in comic books. Sure, that's true, and that's a big role because sidekicks are such a big part in comic books. But he's really more than that, the character of Dick Grayson. And you're right, he really was never given that credit in mainstream media.
Yeah.
He was always a goof, and you make fun of him because of the short pants and the pixie boots and all the other stuff. And this show was like, well, no, actually, he is legitimately a superhero in his own right. The only one thing I'll ever give a negative on Batman the Animated Series is how they handled his transition to Nightwing, because once he turned into Nightwing, they did nothing with him, and he was barely in the show. But they have that one episode where it explains why they
that was deep.
And that was a really well-written, great episode, and I wish they would have done more with Nightwing after that. But again, the acting choices that Lauren Lester made as the voice of Dick Grayson, I think, elevates the show. And think about all the villains that are now so popular and are, people know who they are, like Ra's al Ghul.
Oh, yeah, that show.
Before the animated series,
yep,
no one knew who the fuck Ra's al Ghul was.
No
unless
one,
you read
exactly.
The fact that cartoon exists and made that character as popular and as well known as he is the reason you get a Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins.
Oh, absolutely, no question, dude.
You don't get that in a movie without the animated series.
Like I said before in our beginning, this show had a tremendous impact on the comic book. The impact is still felt today. Just the tone, the music, for crying out loud.
The music is great.
Obviously they lifted from Danny Elfman's theme, but that's fine. There's nothing wrong. Hey, why would you not take that? And
exactly,
because like the art styles, and PJ, you know me, I'm a very big fan of opening credits and tiles, but just the title cards of each episode were, you don't even get those anymore.
Wouldn't you love to own the original art of those title cards and be able to frame them? Oh my god,
you could just see how much pride they took in making that show.
Absolutely, you said it the best before. They're cinematic. These are actually half-hour long short films every week.
Yep.
Though we're sitting here talking about how great Batman the Animated Series is, and it is that great. And it overshadows Superman the Animated Series, which in its own right is honestly just as good.
Yes.
I mean, in a completely different way.
Yep.
In a completely different way.
Yep.
But what they did with Superman and setting it in a much brighter atmosphere, right? Because Superman's not in the shadows and he's not dark. But the acting on that, Tim Daly does Superman in the animated series.
Yeah.
And he has, the only way I could describe his voice is it's like kind but stern.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The best Superman voice. Again, when I read Superman comic books, yeah, all right, Christopher Reeve is Superman. Like, he is. We know that. But I don't actually hear Christopher Reeve's voice in my head. I hear Tim Daly.
No, me too. Same here. For me, like, with Superman, this is another one. Like, I think this is the perfect version of Superman. Like,
I agree.
The whole show is, like you said, it gets overshadowed by Batman the Animated Series, but Superman, like you said, is just as good. I mean, everything with this show, everyone's firing all points. The music.
Clancy Brown is Lex Luthor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I love the villains in this show. At this show, I wrote a note here. This is Superman the Animated Series did a great job of making Superman actually feel like he has threats and he can be outmatched. You really get that with the movies, even with the Christopher Reeves, and those are great. Those are great. Don't get me wrong. New ones that came out today, blah blah blah, and all that stuff. But like, I remember just watching Metallo. Man, I love that
Metallo
guy
in the animated series.
Every time you saw him, you were like, there was a sense of dread. No, not this guy. Usually he would have like a face on, that.
Yeah, it was always like half melting off.
Yeah.
You always see like
I'd be like
out of the shadows with the glowing kryptonite heart.
Yeah.
Shit, Superman's about to get his ass kicked right now.
Yeah.
and you couldn't wait to see how Superman would eventually like overcome that. Or
Yeah.
the Parasite in this was another
Yes, I
great
wrote a
villain.
note. I just wrote a note, dude. I love his design, dude. He
Oh,
was
it's
the
great.
best. Love Parasite. Oh man, his voice, his whole, just his attitude.
Great.
And what I loved about the villains too, like, oh, I'm afraid of Superman. Oh,
No,
like,
they went at him.
yeah, they were like, I don't give a fuck, man.
I don't care who this guy is.
Yeah, exactly.
Get
I
your
mean,
cape out of my face, and they would just go at
exactly.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, just so great. Like you said, Lex. They had Lobo. I think this is where he kind of.
Lobo was great. Yep. And Brad Garrett, I think, did the voice of Lobo.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about these animated series that DC was putting out in the 90s. They got like real actors doing the voices.
Mhm.
They didn't just get no name do a voice. They got people that could emote and could act and could elevate the role in such a way where like it becomes iconic. I sent you a video the other day. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but it was the animated series where Dan Turpin dies.
Well, yeah.
And for people who don't know the lore behind a lot of this stuff, Jack Kirby is probably the most important comic book creator of all time. And people always go to Stan Lee as the most important comic book creator because he's more famous, right? But Jack Kirby created so much of what we know in modern comics as being the things we love. Darkseid, all the good stuff in the Fantastic Four, all that stuff comes from Kirby. They designed Dan Turpin, the police officer, much the way we were talking about how Jim Gordon was great in animated series. Dan Turpin is the cop that you connect with in Superman the animated series, and he is a stand-in for Jack Kirby to be designed like Jack Kirby. And there's an episode where Darkseid invades Earth, and he's in Metropolis, and you get to the ending battle, and you at this point, Superman kind of wins. He gets help from Orion and the other new gods or whatever. But before Darkseid leaves, he just kills Dan Turpin. He kills this police officer who has become Superman's friend over the course of the series. And Superman has this breakdown where he just starts wailing on the ship that's left behind, and he's just like, you don't want to call it a tantrum. It's just raw emotion, how hurt he is. And it's a beautifully written scene, the way they do it. And then it goes right into Dan Turpin's funeral, which is really the funeral of Jack Kirby. And in the background of that, you'll see, you actually see Stan Lee is drawn into it. Nick Fury is drawn into it. All the characters that Kirby created, even if they were Marvel, they don't say it, but you can tell that's who they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then they make the episode a tribute to Jack. But the whole point is just how wonderfully written that all is, with the emotion behind it and how real it feels. And this is a children's cartoon show.
I know.
And they didn't shy away in either one of these to going to those themes that you wouldn't normally see in a children's TV show. They kept it real and they kept it dark. And, a lot of credit to do that on a show that was airing at 3:00 in the afternoon on Channel 11, designed for kids to not dumb it down for kids and to show them what these stories are. A lot of credit, I think, to all of these writers. They wrote a show that's appropriate for all ages, and treated the source material so beautifully and with such respect. The writing, I mean, Bruce Timm did a lot of the artwork. Paul Dini did a lot of the writing on that. And they put together a masterclass of how to treat anything, how to treat writing in TV.
Yeah. I think it also told you how to write for children. So you don't have to, they say
you don't have to dumb it down.
Exactly. Treat children like little adults. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
I think they also did a great job with Lois Lane.
She's great as Lois.
I mean, usually
Dana Delaney doing the voice of,
and sometimes I think, especially with the female, I'll say love interests and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I think like Mary Jane from the Spider-Man show, she's just kind of like really the love interest, kind of like she's always in the damsel in distress. I mean, her character was cool, don't get me wrong, but here she's smart, she feels important, she still needs help. It never felt like she was useless or she was like a plot device or anything like that. She was like a legitimate, full-blown character. She was
I agree with everything that you just said there. I think in general, Lois Lane, the character of Lois Lane, is so important to comic books because she's not a damsel in distress. Really, she's not. In her own right, she's a hero in many respects, and they show that in this show. They really let you know that she gets into trouble and Superman has to save her. That's the plot, right? But she gets into trouble because she's trying to uncover the truth, because she doesn't want these bad things that are happening to be covered up. She wants to get the truth out there and make The way they do it is just great. And Jimmy Olsen in this show is another character who I love
Yep.
because they go back to him being young. You know, a lot of the modern interpretations, Jimmy Olsen is just another coworker at the Daily Planet, but he was always supposed to be younger. Like Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, was like a cub reporter, a
Yeah.
photographer. He's not supposed to be a contemporary of them. And they get that
Yes.
right in this, where he is just a much
Yes.
younger person that idolizes not just Superman, but he idolizes Clark Kent and Lois Lane and looks up to them, which is something that's important because, you know, Clark Kent is just as important as Superman. In Batman the Animated Series, Bruce Wayne is not technically as important as Batman is in that show. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I do I love the portrayal. I think that's the best
I
portrayal of
love it.
Bruce
I'm not,
Wayne.
yeah.
I know what you're saying,
But,
though. I agree.
but it's different in as much as even when he's Bruce Wayne, he's just still kind of Batman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the Superman the Animated Series, Clark Kent is given more to do than Bruce Wayne is given to do in the Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
I think is the way I want to phrase that. And so I like that they show that Clark Kent is also someone to look up to. And I like how they treat Clark out of every iteration of Superman that's ever been on screen. I like how the animated series really treats Clark Kent.
Yeah. I think other thing I just want to highlight too, like with both series, none of them have like a character that's annoying. You go like, oh, not because like you're supposed to hate them kind of thing, like oh Lex Luthor, this pain in the ass. But there's no like Snarf or a Scrappy Doo kind of character.
Exactly.
In
Everyone in there
shows.
serves a real purpose.
Exactly, and like I said, another thing I love about both shows is I don't think doesn't get enough love actually is like the sound design. Like I just love Superman's like when he flies at when he lands at like that is done really freaking well, and like people don't even talk about that, or even like Batman when he shoots the his grappling hook, like just sounds so nice. And for me, maybe it's just because of this during that time period of the '90s, maybe early 2000s. I feel like sound design was just more like had like more like a oof, like a gump. Like now everything's so high tech. Don't get me wrong, but like I think of like hear me out, Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. Like when you gave someone an uppercut, that boom,
you heard that, yeah.
And I just feel like when you had those fight scenes, when he would land a punch, you just felt that boom, you know, like just sound of it. I'm not sure they could use guns or they had to use lasers, kind of
like lasers, yeah.
And another great villain was Mr. Mixoplex, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, that was Gilbert Gottfried.
Yes, that's right. Oh my God, yeah. But even those episodes were fun because it was like so different. You're like, he can break him in half. He could melt him. He could smush him.
Yeah.
But he couldn't beat him like that. So it was just, I don't know, because like, Fuji, you would know better than me. You know, in the comic books, you know, I'm not sure if that character was huge, you know, or
So Mixoplex in the comic books is actually one of the bigger threats in comic books. One of my sidetrack, but just to explain how powerful he is in the comics, one of my favorite Superman stories is actually it's called Emperor Joker, and the Joker gets Mixoplex's powers and basically takes over the world with the powers, because it shows like Mixoplex is that powerful and can do these things, but he's really not a villain. He's like a prankster. He's just kind of he's goofing on Superman because he can. And that's why the episodes are so fun. But in reality, his powers, if he was a more sinister villain, could take over the world. And they show that with the Joker. When the Joker gets those powers. So yeah, Mixoplex really is that powerful. He just isn't evil. He's just fun. And you're right. Those episodes are just fun to watch. And I love those episodes that he would show up in.
Yeah.
He has to try and get him to say his name backwards or trick him. And that's the only way to send him back. And all that stuff is there are so many fun episodes of Superman like that. The Batman episodes they had a couple of fun ones here in, but they're much more serious. The Superman one, because it's Superman, you're allowed to have a little more fun in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. Like I like that.
Yeah.
That they have different tones. It gives a little fun for everyone. Brainiac's another great villain.
I put on my list too another one. Like for me, I love having my top one. I love Parasite. Love Metallo, Brainiac. I mean, those guys, every time you saw him soon, you were like, no, like, because they were so tough, you know, like, you know, he's like, oh, you know, Superman's going to have, you know, his work cut out for him now. Like,
and then they do that 3-part crossover with Batman and Superman have to team up to fight the Joker and Lex.
Yeah.
And that's a great episode. But there's another crossover episode that people don't always know about. It takes place in Superman, the animated series. Superman has to go to Gotham because Batman is missing.
Right.
And so Robin, at this point, Robin is no longer Dick Grayson. It's the Tim Drake Robin because it's in the later seasons. Robin is trying to protect Gotham on his own because Batman is missing. And Superman goes there or whatever and realizes he's missing and fills in for Batman and puts on the Batman suit because Gotham is now getting like overrun by villains because they're starting to realize Batman's not showing up. So Superman dresses up as Batman, and you find out that because Superman is super,
I remember now.
pitch, he can do the voice, and it becomes this episode of Superman dressed as Batman, hanging out with Robin, fighting the bad guy.
Yes,
and now he has to fight Bane.
Yes,
and he just knocks Bane on his ass, and everyone's like, "How the fuck did Batman just?" And he's like, "He's been working out." I think the line they use after he knocks him out, and it's just so fun. It's a very funny episode.
I think at one point in that episode, I think he gets like smushed by like a giant boulder, and and then like he, you know, obviously it's Superman, he like lifts it up, and all the characters like their jaw drops, like what, you know, it's so good. Yes, I remember that episode.
I mean, like I said, all the writing in all these episodes, and that's, you know, that spins off into now you can have a Justice League cartoon, and you can only have that Justice League cartoon because of how good Batman and Superman are. We don't have to get into all the Justice League because we'll be here for a year. But I just like that those shows were so good that it led to something even bigger.
Yeah, and they gave, if there's other like cameos of characters or other heroes, they made them legit. And like there's a whole episode of Batman where the whole thing's about Jonah Hex. I mean, and that's a great episode. That takes a lot of risk and balls to do that. We're gonna have a whole episode where 99.9% of this episode is, I think the beginning of the episode is Batman and Robin meet a guy, and the guy tells a story about Jonah Hex, blah blah blah, and the whole episode is about that. It takes place in the Old West. I mean, like they had balls to do that, you know, and it's well done. You know,
it's well done, and people love it, and it's like they knew. They're like, well, we know we're so good at what we're doing.
Exactly,
we can get away with this.
Confidence.
Yes.
Like I said, it's like a band who's they just know everything they're putting out is cooking. You know, they just knew it, man. They just knew it.
I can't name a bad episode of either one of those shows. Like if I'm trying to think of like which episode do I like the least, I don't think there's a bad episode. I just watched all of these things, and so they're fresh in my mind, and I'm like, I didn't watch any one of these. I'm like, I'm just gonna skip this. There was not a single one where I'm like, I could bypass this one, go to the next episode. I was in every one of these things. I was in a tremendous amount of pain with my back being blown out, with my discs being broken here, and I forgot about all the aches and pains watching this show because it's how good they are. I was so sucked in, so distracted by such quality entertainment that I forgot how much pain I was in. That's how good these shows are. And let's just quickly mention the action figures that we got to have because these shows existed.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the impact is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. But PJ, which brings me to True Detective. I'm going to say how that ties into Batman and Superman when I was watching this. So, folks, I'm talking about True Detective, the TV series. So it first aired in 2014. And this is the one that has Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. And they play two detectives, and this is an anthology series.
Vince Vaughn is not in the first season, right?
No. I think...
okay.
Yeah, and the reason I'm bringing this show up is I just recently watched it. I had a friend of mine who always sent me memes of the show, and I'm like, I gotta finally do it. It's on HBO.
I've never watched it.
Yeah, so when everyone always says, like, just watch the first season, I heard the other seasons aren't as good or they're not worth it. They said the first season, I think it originally started out as it was going to be a one-off because it was so huge. You know, they
kept doing it.
Right, so we just kind of give you a quick synopsis of it. Right, it stars Matthew McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, play two homicide detectives. Like I said, it's a self-contained story, and it's non-linear, the narrative. So what happens is these two detectives, right, they're doing the investigation of a murder of a woman. Her name is Dora Lang from 1995. So what happens is from 1995 to 2002, they were kind of investigating this murder, right? And they kind of revisit it years later with new evidence, and they kind of reteam to get back. I'm giving people here a fast version. I might do some spoilers here. But anyway, they play two detectives, okay? So Matthew McConaughey, he's kind of your nihilist. You know, you find out that he had a daughter who passed away because his daughter passed away, kind of messed up his marriage. And now he's this homicide detective. He used to do undercover work. So he's met awful people. He had to do drugs just to fit in with them. So he's very, like, depressed, everything, pessimistic. And then you have Woody Harrelson is kind of the opposite. I want to say he's more like, you know, the good boy or anything like that, because you find out he's not really that good of a guy either. He's also cheating on his wife, so he's kind of a piece of crap too. But anyway, this show is kind of like Batman and Superman, where the writing is outstanding. The thing is outstanding. The directing out. This is only 8 episodes long. And I know you can't go by seasons of an animated show, but it has the same beats where all these things are cooking. I can see why this show has the legacy that it has. I mean, it's unbelievable. And the storyline is just, you just feel like you're these two detectives. You're figuring out with them, It's just done. It's really good mystery done well. And like I said, I'm not going to do a whole full review of this TV show, but I'm going to tie in right now how it feels like Batman and Superman. Basically, when I was watching this, I'm like, obviously this show takes a lot of, I'll say, influence from like other true crime, or a lot of people say like H.P. Lovecraft, all those kind of guys and those kind of early kind of storytelling. But for me, I was like, this is kind of if you took Batman was Matthew McConaughey's character.
Compare me to Batman?
And then Woody Harrelson would be Superman. Now these would be very real, deep versions of the character. Yeah. Like I don't picture very Superman, cheating on Lois Lane, but
you wonder ever you're a bad man?
If you were to do a super grounded, I'm not saying they should do this, but I was watching, I'm like, wow, these are two opposites who are forced to work together. They don't really get along, really. They respect one another as detectives, but they're forced basically to work together, and they build a friendship throughout the series and how their personal lives and their past influences how they solve this case. When I was watching it, no joke, PJ, I was saying to myself, like, I can't believe no one has, I'm sure maybe there's a meme out there floating around where someone use AI where you have McConaughey as Batman and you have Woody Harrelson as Superman, because a lot of the iconic moments of the show is them just talking in the car, breaking each other's balls, being rude to one another. And I'm like, this is, there has to be some part of this writer of the show, Nick Pizzolatto, I'm sure I would love to ask the guy, like, did you get influence at all with Batman and Superman to any degree? Because it seems like you have these two polar opposites who have their own past, their own issues, and now they're kind of working together to kind of solve this mystery of this woman who was murdered, and you're trying to find this mystery villain, psychopath. And it's much bigger than that. You find it gets more, I'll say, global, and what happens with this cult and everything. And you're trying to find this maniac, but this show, PJ, was excellent. It's 8 episodes, an hour long. I mean, everything is cooking about this show, and there's a lot of deep meaning.
I do have to check it out. Everyone, you're right. Everyone who talks about that show says how great it is, and I've just never gotten around to it. Yep. But as an actor, I love Woody Harrelson. He's one of my favorite actors out there. Yeah. So I don't know why I've never put it on, because I usually watch anything that he's in just because of how much I like Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, it's great. And, like, you're the type of person who felt, I think everyone always liked Woody Harrelson. He's always had wild roles in his early career, National Born Killers and Cheers, blah, blah, blah. And Matthew McConaughey.
He's been one of my favorite actors since Cheers. I loved him on Cheers.
And I always loved Matthew McConaughey, and there was a whole story how he wanted to be taken to get better roles, and he basically kept denying, like, I don't want to do rom-coms anymore. And I fell in love with the guy since Dazed and Confused, I love the movie.
Another great actor. That guy. Really something special.
Yep. Another great movie his is Frailty. That's kind of a forgotten gem. But this show, everyone in this show like I said, everyone in this show is off the wall. But PJ, I just want to talk about how sometimes with media, entertainment, the whole industry is really cooking. Like I feel in the 90s, you and I grew up in that era, they had the grunge rock, but there was great gangster, like there just seems to be a zeitgeist of just everyone's cooking. You have Batman the animated series. You have X-Men was out there. Everyone was cooking.
It was a time. I feel like that was a time people were allowed to be creative.
Yes.
And now you don't get to be creative. Now everyone's like reined in, like corporate.
Exactly.
Corporate tells you what you have to do.
Right.
Where back then you could do what you wanted, and things were just so much better for it.
Right. And because it's in my algorithm now, someone posted a reel, and it says like, TV was really in its prime in 2014, and then it was the 2014 Emmys. I'm just going to read you the nominations for Best Actor in a Dramatic Series. Okay, but I'm going to tell you all the shows that were happening, and all these gentlemen, it should have been probably the first year where everyone just gets an award. Everyone should have walked. They should have just said everyone. It's a 6-way tie. You had Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad.
Okay,
Matthew McConaughey, True Detective. Right. John Hamm, Mad Men, right?
Wow.
Jeff Daniels, The Newsroom.
I love The Newsroom.
Right. Woody Harrelson for True Detective, so he's going against his own co-star, right? And then finally, Kevin Spacey, regardless of what he's done and all that kind of, Kevin Spacey in House of Cards. But all those shows were happening in 2014.
That's crazy.
Holy, and it wasn't like a Stranger Things or Game of Thrones where they they crap the bed at
Right.
the end. Like, all those shows are still highly regarded. They're still, I mean,
Those are
unbelievable.
solid. Like, they've earned their place in history.
Exactly. Bryan Cranston ended up winning.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen all the rest of those shows, to be honest, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Matthew McConaughey maybe should have won that, maybe for that year. Maybe give it to Cranston. I don't know if he won multiple for that role. I don't know, but holy cow. But just saying, like,
That is a big lineup of some big TV shows.
anyone in there, anyone in that
Yeah.
you could have justified one.
That is, and now think about now. Can you name one TV show where you're like this is so good, I have to tell other people to watch this show? I don't think that TV show exists.
I haven't watched this. I'm not really too into TV series. I prefer movies, but the last one that I liked and then ended up crapping out, and actually we never really done a review of it, was actually Squid Game. That first season of Squid Game is exquisite. I did like the second one. The third one horrendous, but we kind of, I talked about this before. We talked about TV series, like kind of the best and worst endings, and there's been so many, and unfortunately, ones in recent time have not been good. Stranger Things we talked about previously, not good. But
I mean, The Penguin was good.
Yeah.
And that was, but even like it was fine. You know what I mean? Like, it was good. I don't dislike that show at all. But
yeah, I think
I wouldn't compare that to some of these other shows that are out there.
Yeah.
But is that like the newest show that's been out with the last several years where you're like, wow, all right, that one had something to it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. And we did a review of The Penguin. I think both of you.
Where did the quality go?
That's
you
for
asked that question a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, folks, I definitely recommend True Detective season 1. I haven't seen the other seasons. I don't think I'm gonna honestly entertain them. But this first season, absolutely. If you like movies like Seven or Zodiac, obviously those kind of David Fincher kind of thrillers. But I mean, it was excellent.
Matthew McConaughey has never shown up in a comic book movie. I wonder if that's on purpose.
Yeah, I don't think he wants. Yeah, I don't think he wants to do that.
Because Woody Harrelson was Carnage, for better or worse. He was
yeah. Mm-hmm. I actually
find those Venom movies entertaining. I wouldn't say they're great, but they are entertaining.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second or the third one. I think
but McConaughey feels like he could actually do a really good job in a superhero movie, not as the superhero himself, but I think he would be one of those really great side characters, like you said, like a Jim Gordon type or something like that, where he's like, he gets a meaty role. He's not just the guy who's putting on tights and punching a bad guy, but he has something to do, or like a villain type of role.
Yeah,
I actually think he'd be really good in something like that, but it must be on purpose that he just doesn't want to be associated with it.
Yeah, definitely. You think about shows that are movies that were based off comic, like Road to Perdition and things based off of comic.
Yeah,
that's it's a great movie. But yeah, folks, I mean, like, these shows are already highly regarded, and this is what people, what could you say that hasn't been said already? But we're here to celebrate them, and then if you haven't checked these out, revisit them, or revisit the episodes that don't get enough love, like Bullet for Bullock, or what's the other one from Batman? I have it written down. I think it's a Cape and the Cowl. It's a little bit of a mystery, which is the Cape and the Cowl, which is Riddler-esque. It's not with the Riddler, but there is a mystery to it. And like we said too, with Superman, check out the episodes with Parasite and Metallo and Brainiac. I mean,
and Darkseid. The Darkseid episode.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
good.
that show, I guess that's another show that made Darkseid. I mean, he was always cool in the comic book, but that show really gave him a
show, now people know who he is.
Yeah, exactly. It gave him an edge.
If you weren't a comic book person, you were like, what's a Darkseid? But that show, you're like, Darkseid. Like, I mean, the writing, again, tribute to Jack Kirby, how great he is with creating characters, but really Superman the Animated Series giving Kirby his due with a lot of that fourth world stuff that they bring in. So good. Definitely watch all of the animated stuff that DC put out back in the 90s and early 2000s. I'm going to check out True Detective because I haven't watched it yet. Everyone says how good it is. I will pop that on. And there is a season, I think, with Vince Vaughn, and I will watch that because I actually like
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's season 2 or whatever season it is, but I might watch the first one, and maybe I'll even try out the Vince Vaughn season. I'll give that one 2 shots.
Yep.
Another great episode of Batman is Legends of the Dark Knight, where all these kids are getting together and they're telling their version of what they think the story of Batman is.
Oh yeah.
And like, one is The Dark Knight Returns and one is a different version. It's like, no, this is the real Batman. I love that episode. I could sit here forever and talk about how great some of those episodes are for both of those shows.
Yeah.
Man, TV, when they get it right, could be so good.
Yeah.
And I think those shows make animated projects respected.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, Pete, you just reminded me of some of my notes. I definitely think True Detective influenced The Batman, the one with Robert Pattinson. You could just feel like in terms of like the murder and just the tone, the grittiness of it. I could definitely, was it Matt Reeves probably took influence from that show, and just the women in it, the sexiness of it too from True Detective. You can feel it in there. So that's another show that has, Batman, he's a detective, right? So is Superman in his own right. So all three of these shows, their impact is immeasurable, man. Holy cow. Unbelievable. But yeah, folks, check these shows out and we'll see you in the future. Same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.